I stood there in the jewelry store staring at the engagement rings, my heart racing with anticipation. 4 years with Jessica, and I knew she was the one. The diamonds sparkled under the display lights as I imagined her reaction. That night when I proposed, her eyes filled with tears of joy as she said yes. I never thought 2 months later she would look me in the eyes and say those words that changed everything. Before I tell you how my perfect relationship started falling apart, let me know where you are watching from. Hit that subscribe button if you have ever had to stand up for yourself in a relationship. Trust me, what happened next changed everything. When I first met Jessica during sophomore year of college, I knew she was special. Her bright blue eyes and infectious laugh drew me in immediately. We met at a campus coffee shop where she accidentally spilled her latte on my economics textbook. What started as an awkward apology turned into a 4-hour conversation about our dreams, family backgrounds, and favorite travel destinations. By our third date, I was already imagining our future together. Jessica was not just beautiful, but incredibly intelligent. As an architectural design major, she had this amazing ability to see potential in spaces others overlooked. I was studying finance, and while our fields were different, we shared the same values about hard work and creating a meaningful life. Over the next 4 years, our relationship grew stronger. We supported each other through final exams, celebrated job offers, and comforted one another through family hardships. When my grandmother passed away during our 3rd year together, Jessica drove 6 hours to be with me for the funeral, even though she had a major project due. That moment cemented what I already knew. She was the woman I wanted to spend my life with. Our post-graduation plans aligned perfectly. We both secured jobs in Portland, moved into a cozy apartment downtown, and started saving for our future. We talked about having a small autumn wedding, buying a house in the suburbs, and eventually starting a family. 2 kids, a dog, and weekend barbecues with friends. The American dream that felt so attainable with her by my side. When I finally proposed on our 4th anniversary at the restaurant where we had our first official date, Jessica cried happy tears. The ring, a vintage-style oval diamond with small sapphires on either side, fit perfectly on her finger. That night, surrounded by champagne glasses and congratulatory messages from friends and family, I felt like the luckiest man alive. One person who seemed particularly excited about our engagement was Kyle, her best friend since high school. I had met Kyle numerous times over the years and genuinely liked him. He was outgoing, athletic, and shared many of the same interests as Jessica. They had a brother-sister type relationship that I respected. Kyle was always supportive of our relationship, often joining us for dinner or movie nights. He even helped me plan parts of the proposal, suggesting Jessica would love the vintage-style ring I ultimately chose. In the weeks following our engagement, we started planning the wedding with enthusiasm. Jessica wanted something intimate but elegant. Her parents were thrilled and immediately offered to help with the venue costs. My parents, equally excited, volunteered to handle the rehearsal dinner. Everything was falling into place seamlessly. One Friday evening, Jessica mentioned she wanted to discuss bachelor and bachelorette parties. I figured this would be a straightforward conversation about typical celebrations with our respective friends. Jessica had a close group of girlfriends from college, and I assumed they would organize something fun but reasonable for her. Little did I know, this simple topic would reveal a side of Jessica I had never seen before. The evening started normally enough. We ordered takeout from our favorite Thai place and opened a bottle of wine. Jessica seemed unusually excited as she brought up the bachelorette party subject. So Paul, the girls, and I have been talking about my bachelorette party. She began refilling her wine glass for the 2nd time. We want to do something really special since this is my last hurrah as a single woman. I nodded encouragingly. That sounds great. What are you thinking? A spa weekend or maybe a wine tour? Jessica laughed, but there was something slightly dismissive in her tone. Not exactly. We are thinking bigger. Kyle suggested Las Vegas for a week. I nearly choked on my pad thai. A week in Vegas. That seems like a long time for a bachelorette party. Jessica waved her hand casually. All the best bachelorette parties are at least a long weekend. Besides, Kyle knows this amazing club promoter who can get us into all the exclusive places. That caught my attention. Wait, Kyle is planning your bachelorette party. I thought it would be Amanda or Taylor. Amanda had been her roommate in college, and Taylor her closest female friend since childhood. Well, Kyle is helping coordinate. He knows Vegas really well, and he will be coming along. She said this as though it was the most natural thing in the world. I put down my fork, trying to process what I was hearing. Your male best friend is planning and attending your bachelorette party. That seems unusual. Jessica rolled her eyes. Do not be so traditional, Paul. Kyle has always been my best friend. Of course he would be part of this. But a bachelorette party is traditionally for the bride and her female friends, I explained carefully, not wanting to upset her but feeling increasingly uncomfortable. Are you saying you do not trust me? Jessica snapped, her tone suddenly defensive. That is not what I am saying at all. I trust you completely. It just seems strange to have Kyle there for what is usually a girls' trip. Jessica crossed her arms. My bachelorette party is a week-long Vegas trip with my male bestie. Deal with it. Her bluntness shocked me. This was not the Jessica I knew. The woman I loved was considerate, and would at least acknowledge my feelings even if we disagreed. I sat there feeling disrespected and confused. Later that night, my phone buzzed with a text from Kyle. Gonna take good care of your girl in Vegas. Do not worry, bro. Something about the wording felt off. Take care of her. She was not a package to be handled. I showed the text to my best friend Jason the next day over lunch. That does not sound right, Jason said, frowning at the message. Would your fiancé be cool if you went on a week-long trip to Vegas with your female best friend? I knew the answer was definitely no. Jessica had once felt uncomfortable when I had lunch with a female coworker to discuss a project. This double standard was becoming apparent, and it bothered me deeply. My suspicions grew when I overheard Jessica on the phone with Kyle a few days later. I had come home early from work, and she was in the bedroom with the door partially open. We will have so much fun. The hotel suite has an amazing view of the Strip, Jessica was saying excitedly. And yes, I told Paul you are coming. He will get over it. There was a pause as Kyle responded. No, he does not need to know about that part, she continued, lowering her voice. What happens in Vegas, right? My stomach dropped. What exactly were they planning that I should not know about? My curiosity led me to do something I never thought I would, look into Kyle more thoroughly. Through mutual friends, I discovered Kyle had actually had feelings for Jessica back in college but never acted on them because she met me. This information put his enthusiasm about the Vegas trip in an entirely different light. A week later, our friend Michael pulled me aside at a barbecue. Hey man, I do not know if this means anything, but Kyle was talking about your engagement at the gym the other day. He seemed, I do not know, almost resentful. Said something about Jessica settling down too soon. The pieces were starting to form a troubling picture. When Jessica brought up the Vegas trip again, insisting on booking flights, I decided to take a different approach. Fine, I said calmly. You should go and have fun. I will not stop you. Jessica seemed surprised by my sudden change of heart, but quickly smiled. Really? That is great. I promise everything will be fine. As she hugged me, I wondered if I had just made a terrible mistake, or taken the first step toward seeing the truth about our relationship. The situation deteriorated rapidly once Jessica started making concrete plans for the Vegas trip. She spent hours on the phone with Kyle discussing hotels, clubs, and activities. What bothered me most was not just the trip itself, but how secretive certain aspects of their planning became. One evening I noticed Jessica quickly switching apps on her phone when I walked into the room. Later, when she went to take a shower, curiosity got the better of me. I had never checked her phone before. We had always trusted each other completely. But something felt very wrong, and I needed to know if my concerns were justified. What I found confirmed my worst fears. In her text thread with Kyle, several days of conversations had been deleted, leaving suspicious gaps. The remaining messages included Kyle saying things like, "This will be just like old times, and what Paul does not know will not hurt him." Even more disturbing was discovering they had booked a hotel suite together. Not separate rooms, not even rooms on the same floor. An actual suite they would share with two of her girlfriends. When I confronted Jessica about this arrangement, she became immediately defensive. We are saving money this way. The suite has 2 bedrooms and a pull-out couch. It is completely innocent. Then why delete messages between you and Kyle? I asked, finally admitting I had looked at her phone. Her face flushed with anger. You went through my phone. How dare you invade my privacy like that? This is exactly why I did not tell you everything, because you are acting paranoid and controlling. The conversation devolved into our first major fight as an engaged couple. Jessica stormed out and stayed at her sister's place that night. Things got worse the following weekend when we had dinner with several friends, including Kyle. Throughout the entire meal, he made subtle jabs about the upcoming trip. Vegas has the best pool parties, Kyle announced, winking at Jessica. Remember that last one we went to before she met you, Jess? That was wild. That was years ago. Jessica laughed nervously. We will make new memories this time, Kyle replied, his eyes lingering on her a bit too long. I noticed how he casually touched her arm, when speaking how he positioned himself between us whenever possible, and how he kept bringing up inside jokes that excluded me from the conversation. It was as though he was staking his claim, and Jessica either did not notice or did not mind. As the wedding planning continued, Jessica became increasingly distant. She was less affectionate, often too busy to spend quality time together, and seemingly preoccupied with thoughts I was not privy to. When I tried to discuss wedding details, she would give brief, disinterested responses before redirecting the conversation to her Vegas trip. Concerned and confused, I reached out to my family for advice. My younger sister Emma was blunt in her assessment. "Paul, you need to set clear boundaries. If this trip makes you uncomfortable, you have every right to express that. A marriage is built on mutual respect." My father, normally reserved with relationship advice, shared a troubling story. My buddy Rick went through something similar years back. His fiancée insisted on a weekend away with an old friend. Rick ignored his instincts, trying to be the cool, understanding guy. Found out 6 months into the marriage she had been having an affair with that friend since before the wedding. Trust your gut, son. Armed with this perspective, I attempted another serious conversation with Jessica. I chose a quiet Sunday morning, made her favorite breakfast, and gently raised my concerns. "Jessica, I love you and want to marry you more than anything. But this Vegas trip with Kyle has me worried. Not because I do not trust you, but because the situation itself feels inappropriate. If we are going to build a life together, we need to respect each other's feelings even when we disagree." Her reaction was immediate and harsh. "You are trying to control who I can be friends with and where I can go. If you loved me, you would support my choices instead of making me feel guilty. This is not about control," I insisted. "This is about what feels right for both of us. Would you be comfortable if I planned a week-long trip with a female friend who had feelings for me?" "That is completely different," she snapped. "How? How is it different? Because Kyle and I are just friends, we have always been just friends. Then why does he get to disrespect our relationship? Why does his opinion seem to matter more than mine lately?" Jessica stood up abruptly. "I am not having this conversation again. The trip is happening. Either accept it or—" She trailed off, leaving the threat unspoken but clear. Or what I pressed. Or we should reconsider getting married. Her silence was deafening. Finally, she spoke words that cut through me like a knife. "This is my last chance to be free before we get married. If you cannot handle that, maybe we should rethink things." In that moment, I saw a different person standing before me. Someone selfish and dismissive of my feelings. Someone willing to jeopardize our future for a week of questionable fun. The woman I had fallen in love with seemed to be fading away, replaced by someone I barely recognized. The situation reached its breaking point 3 weeks before the planned Vegas trip. I was working late one night and using Jessica's laptop because mine was being repaired. A Facebook Messenger notification popped up from Kyle. Normally, I would never read her messages, but after everything that had happened, I clicked on it. What I saw made my blood run cold. Kyle had written, "Cannot wait to create some unforgettable Vegas memories with you," like we always talked about. Scrolling up through their conversation history revealed more concerning exchanges. Kyle repeatedly referred to their special connection and how some people just belong together. Jessica's responses were friendly but flirtatious, with comments about how Kyle always understood her in ways others never could. That same week, Jessica came home drunk after a happy hour with coworkers. As I helped her into bed, she mumbled something that stopped me in my tracks. "Kyle told me he loved me, you know. Few months ago. Said he always has." My heart pounding, I asked, "What? When did this happen?" Half asleep, she continued. "After we got engaged." Said I was making a mistake. Silly Kyle. The next morning, I confronted her with what she had revealed. Fully sober, Jessica looked panicked but quickly composed herself. "Yes, he did say something like that, but I shut it down immediately. It did not mean anything. And you did not think this was important to tell me? That your best friend who you are planning a week-long Vegas trip with confessed his love for you. I handled it. There was no need to create drama. Kyle knows I chose you." "Chose me," I repeated incredulously. "Was there actually a choice to be made here?" Jessica backpedaled. "That is not what I meant. Look, Kyle has always had a little crush on me, but it is harmless. He respects our relationship." "Respects our relationship," I was nearly shouting now. "He told you that you were making a mistake by marrying me. How is that respect?" "You are blowing this way out of proportion," Jessica insisted. "Kyle was just having a moment of jealousy. He is completely over it now." "How would you know? Has he told you that specifically?" Her hesitation told me everything. Not exactly, but I can tell. We have moved past it. That afternoon, as though the universe wanted to test my sanity further, Kyle himself called me. His voice had an edge I had never heard before. Look, man, I think you need to back off a bit. Jessica says you have been really controlling about this Vegas trip. Controlling, I am concerned about my fiancée spending a week in Vegas with a guy who is in love with her, a fact she conveniently hid from me. There was a pause before Kyle responded, his tone suddenly cold. Jessica deserves someone who trusts her completely. Someone who understands her better than you ever could. I have been there for her long before you came along. Are you seriously saying this to me right now? To her fiancé, Kyle laughed, a sound devoid of humor. Just saying I will take better care of her than you ever have. Maybe Vegas will help her see that. The call ended with me in a state of shock. Hours later, I witnessed something that confirmed all my fears. I had gone to pick up Jessica from her office, planning to surprise her with dinner reservations. Through the glass doors of her workplace, I saw her and Kyle in the lobby. He had his arms wrapped around her in what was clearly more than a friendly hug, his face buried in her hair. They quickly separated when a coworker walked by looking guilty and secretive. When Jessica got into the car, she made no mention of Kyle visiting her office. When I asked who she had been talking to in the lobby, she casually replied, "Oh, just a coworker about a project deadline." The lie stung worse than anything else. That night, Jessica's phone kept buzzing with messages. When I glanced over, I saw they were from Kyle, but she quickly turned the phone face down. The final blow came when Jessica's parents called me directly. Her mother's voice was cold as she said, "Jessica tells us you have been very difficult about her bachelorette party. I think you need to trust our daughter more. She has always had good judgment." It became clear that Jessica had been painting me as the villain to everyone in her life. In her version of events, I was an insecure, controlling fiancé trying to ruin her fun. No one knew about Kyle's confession of love, his inappropriate comments, or the secret meetings. That evening, I asked Jessica point blank, if it came down to a choice between keeping Kyle in your life or marrying me, what would you choose? She stared at me, stunned by the directness of the question. Her silence was all the answer I needed. The woman I thought I knew better than anyone in the world had become a stranger to me. The foundation of trust our relationship had been built on had crumbled completely. After a sleepless night contemplating my future, I made a decision. I would not continue being a passive victim in this situation. If Jessica wanted to test boundaries, I would show her exactly where mine stood. The next morning, I approached her with a calm I did not know I possessed. "I have been thinking about your Vegas trip," I began as she looked up from her coffee, surprised by my tone. And she asked cautiously, "You are right. You should go and enjoy yourself. Have fun with Kyle and your friends. I will not stand in your way." Relief flooded her face, quickly replaced by suspicion. "Really? You are okay with it now?" "Absolutely. In fact, I will be planning my own bachelor celebration while you are gone." Jessica nodded slowly. "That seems fair. What are you thinking of doing?" "Oh, nothing special. Just a guy's trip similar to yours. I will figure out the details." What Jessica did not know was that I had already set my plan in motion. The previous evening after our confrontation, I had reached out to Amber, Kyle's ex-girlfriend, whom he had dated for 3 years before abruptly ending things. They had broken up just 6 months before I met Jessica, and there had always been rumors about the circumstances. Amber agreed to meet me for coffee that afternoon. When she arrived, I could tell she was nervous but determined. "Thank you for coming," I said as we sat down at a corner table. "When you called, I was surprised," Amber admitted. "Kyle and I do not exactly run in the same circles anymore. I appreciate your willingness to talk." "I know this might be uncomfortable." Amber sighed deeply. "Let me guess. Kyle is causing problems between you and Jessica." Her intuition surprised me. "How did you know?" "Because it is what he does, Paul. Kyle has a pattern. He maintains these intense friendships with women, waits until they are in serious relationships, then tries to sabotage them. He did it to at least 2 other friends before me." She explained how Kyle had been her friend for years before they dated. After their breakup, she discovered he had systematically undermined several of her previous relationships through subtle manipulation and creating doubt. With me, he finally got what he wanted. We dated. But once he conquered that mountain, he lost interest. 6 months later, he was already eyeing his next target. "Jessica," I said quietly. Amber nodded. I tried to warn her back then, but she thought I was just bitter. Kyle is charming and patient. He plays the long game. Armed with this insight, I moved to the next phase of my plan. I announced on social media that I would be having my own celebration the same weekend as Jessica's Vegas trip. I deliberately included a group photo with Jason and some other friends, plus a caption mentioning special guests. Next, I reached out to Sarah, one of Jessica's closest friends who had mysteriously been excluded from the Vegas trip planning. Over drinks, Sarah confirmed what I had suspected. She had tried to warn Jessica about Kyle's intentions and was subsequently sidelined. He convinced Jessica I was jealous of their friendship, Sarah explained. But I was there in college when Kyle would get drunk and talk about how someday he and Jessica would be together. It was creepy then, and it is creepy now. The final piece of my strategy fell into place when I contacted Jake, Kyle's older brother. Jake and Kyle had a strained relationship, largely because Jake had repeatedly called Kyle out on his manipulative behavior toward women. When I explained the situation, Jake was not surprised. Classic Kyle, he sighed. He cannot stand when women he feels entitled to choose someone else. Let me guess, he befriended you initially, right? Made you feel like he supported your relationship. Exactly that, I confirmed. That is his move. Gets close to assess the competition, then strikes when he sees vulnerability. Did it with our cousin's fiancée too. With Amber, Sarah, and Jake all agreeing to join my bachelor party, I made sure word would get back to Kyle. I posted additional social media updates showing planning meetings with these specific people, tagging them all deliberately. The reaction was swift and explosive. Kyle called me in a rage just 2 days before the Vegas trip was set to begin. "What the hell do you think you are doing?" he demanded. "Why are you hanging out with Amber and my brother?" "Planning my bachelor party," I replied calmly. "Is there a problem?" "You know exactly what the problem is. Amber will fill Jessica's head with lies about me. Lies, or truths, you do not want her to hear." Kyle's voice dropped to a threatening whisper. "You think you are clever, but you have no idea who you are dealing with. Jessica and I have a connection you could never understand. This Vegas trip was going to be where she finally realized that. So you admit it," I said, recording the conversation with an app I had installed. "The trip was a setup to try to steal my fiancée." "She was never really yours to begin with," Kyle snarled. "We have history that predates you. Vegas was going to be where she remembered that and forgot all about playing house with you. Thank you for confirming what I already knew." There was a moment of silence as Kyle realized what he had done. "You recorded this, did not you? You sneaky bastard." "Goodbye, Kyle." Within hours, the Vegas trip was mysteriously canceled. Kyle told Jessica there was an issue with the hotel reservations. She was disappointed but suspicious of the sudden change of plans, especially when she saw my latest social media post featuring Amber, Sarah, and Jake all together at a planning dinner for my bachelor party. When Jessica came home that evening, her confusion was evident. "Paul, why are you hanging out with Kyle's ex-girlfriend and his brother? And why was Sarah there?" She told me she was too busy to come to Vegas. I calmly sat Jessica down and played the recorded conversation with Kyle. As she listened, her face went through a series of emotions: disbelief, anger, and finally shame. "I cannot believe this," she whispered when the recording ended. "He told me he just wanted me to have fun before the wedding. He said you were being controlling because you did not understand our friendship. Kyle has been manipulating both of us from the beginning," I explained. "Amber told me he has a history of doing this. He befriends women in relationships, gains their trust, then tries to sabotage things when the moment is right." Jessica looked devastated. "Paul, I am so sorry. I should have trusted you. I should have listened when you expressed concerns. While part of me wanted to immediately forgive her, I knew our relationship needed more than a simple apology to heal. Jessica, I love you, but this situation has shown me something important. Trust is everything in a marriage, and right now that trust is broken. If we move forward, things need to change." "Anything," she said earnestly. "Just tell me what to do." "First, Kyle cannot be part of our lives anymore. Not at our wedding, not in our future. His friendship with you is not innocent, and it never was." Jessica nodded solemnly. "I understand. I will cut ties completely. Second, we need couples counseling before the wedding. What happened here goes deeper than just Kyle's manipulation. We need to address why you were so quick to dismiss my feelings and believe the worst about my intentions." Though difficult, our conversation that night was the most honest we had ever had. Jessica admitted she had enjoyed Kyle's attention and the ego boost it provided even while she had no intention of acting on it. I acknowledged that my approach to expressing concern could have been better. In the following days, Kyle made desperate attempts to contact Jessica, sending multiple texts and even showing up at our apartment. Jessica remained firm, telling him clearly that his presence in our lives was over. When he tried to paint me as the villain once more, Jessica shut him down completely. "Paul was right about you all along," she told him. "What you did was manipulative and selfish. Our friendship is over." Kyle's final attempt came in the form of a long email detailing all the ways he thought I was wrong for Jessica. She forwarded it to me without reading it, a gesture of transparency that meant more than she could know. 2 weeks later, we began couples counseling. The process was challenging but illuminating. We discovered patterns in our communication that needed work and found healthier ways to express concerns. Most importantly, we rebuilt the foundation of trust that had been so severely damaged. 6 months later, we had a beautiful autumn wedding. Kyle was not in attendance, but Sarah served as a bridesmaid, and our relationship was stronger than it had ever been. Looking back now, I realize how close we came to losing everything we had built together. Not because Jessica would have necessarily cheated during that Vegas trip, but because we would have continued a pattern of broken trust and poor communication that would have eventually torn us apart. I learned that sometimes to save a relationship worth fighting for, you have to be willing to take a stand, even when it means risking losing that relationship altogether. Jessica learned that true friends respect boundaries and that relationships require constant nurturing and honest communication. If you have ever faced a similar challenge in your relationship, remember that trust is earned daily through actions, not words. Setting healthy boundaries is not controlling. It is an essential part of self-respect and mutual respect. And if someone tries to come between you and your partner, addressing it directly is always better than letting resentment build. Our story could have ended very differently if I had simply accepted what was happening, or if Jessica had gone on that trip. Instead, we chose to fight for our relationship on terms that honored both of us. That decision has made all the difference. Have you ever had to stand up for your relationship against outside influences? Share your experience in the comments below. If this story resonated with you, please hit that like button and subscribe to hear more real-life experiences about navigating complex relationships. Thank you for listening, and remember, protecting what matters most sometimes requires courage you did not know you had.